age of 22, I was able to put together an e-commerce incubator whose members did over $20 million within the first year. It also acted as a hybrid e-commerce fraternity where we were able to throw some of the craziest parties. Some of the guys living there had alligators and other crazy pets like prairie dogs running around. And we were able to do the impossible within 12 months of setting this up. I'm Nick Andres, founder of Stack Commerce. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our new content coming out. And if you're looking to supercharge your e-commerce brand growth, head on over to stackcommerce.io, fill out our contact information form. One of our team members will get in touch with you soon. An idea I had had for a few years. I had actually dropped out of college while still living in my fraternity to run my e-commerce business. At the age of 20, I was already doing 7 figures a year of volume. I thought, why continue to take classes? I was actually sitting in an economics class the one day and my Shopify notifications kept going off. I just hit a record like around a $3,500 revenue day. And I'm looking at supply and demand on a whiteboard thinking, why the hell am I here right now? So as I was living in the fraternity, I thought there were so many great elements of this that could be leveraged so well within business. You know, fraternity culture for one, it's great, amazing way to get young men to grow up, to bring people together, work together towards philanthropy, other good causes, set up great events and parties, and just essentially have a mastermind environment where people can share what's working for them. You know, in the college sense, everyone's sharing notebooks, study guides, test results, things like that to get by. But like I mentioned, I had already dropped out of college. I'm doing millions of dollars of revenue in e-commerce, thinking, wow, imagine if everyone living in this house right now was also running an e-commerce business. That would be crazy. So fast forwarding 2 years, my business partner and I, we were living in Manayunk, Philadelphia. We had a couple of guys that were working for us also living there. The one dude actually lived in the closet, but hell, he was pulling more girls than anyone in the house. And then I reached out to one of the guys that was in the fraternity with me back in college. I had actually seen him on Facebook in some of the e-commerce groups. So I said, hey, do you want to move in? We have this house here. We're all working on e-commerce sites together. Come move in. He did. So we had 5 guys that were living and working together, and we created a mini mastermind in this environment, essentially a microcosm, that previous idea I had while living in the fraternity in college. Towards the end of our lease though, we'd gotten ourselves in some pretty deep shit. We were in over 6 figures of debt without a clear path out. We'd lost some merchant processing accounts because quite frankly, we were partying too much and not spending enough time running our businesses to make sure that they weren't collapsing. So we had a bit of a roadblock in front of us that we needed to solve. Naturally, when you're in this position, what's the first thing you're gonna do? Clearly, go on a nice cruise through the rich neighborhoods at night, hoping the cops don't pull you over, to brainstorm, you know, and figure out the fastest way out of debt, which when we were driving by those mansions, looking at them saying, yo, that'd be sick if we could get something like this. My partner loved it. He was talking about what we'd be doing in the mansions and whatnot. And I went on a Zillow hunt there on after, figuring out what mansion owner could I convince to let the 5 of us move in. Finally found a house. It was for sale at the time, but I was reaching out to owners via Zillow, got in touch with the real estate agent for this place. Her husband was actually the business partner of the owner of the property. It was a $2 million estate in Malvern, Pennsylvania. It had about 25 acres. And the real estate agent's husband agreed to sit down with us. He sat down with my business partner and I, and wanted to make sure that we weren't just a bunch of college kids that wanted to come into their mansion and get fucked up. People were telling us this wasn't a good idea, and they didn't even know that we were in $120K of debt between our 3 stores with no path out. But we just didn't give a fuck. At this point, I was just concerned about, okay, how can we get into a mansion? That would be fucking sweet. The debt, making money, you know, we'll just figure that out, you know. At that point, every time I'd gotten to an issue in the past, I'd figure it out. And you have to have that kind of confidence to have serious success really within any business, especially starting at a young age when you have parents telling you not to drop out of college, teachers telling you you're being irresponsible, friends concerned about what you're doing. You really just have to believe in yourself to take that leap forward. And just deep down, I knew if I could get a bunch of business owners and smart guys in the same environment working together, it was gonna pay off. The real estate agent's husband to let us move into the mansion. The big caveat here was that the rent was gonna be $9K a month. We were paying $3,200. We had 5 guys living there. And then towards the end of our lease, my partner's brother ended up moving in. So we had 6, and going from $3,200 to $9,000 a month while being in $120,000 of debt. Well, that was going to be a tough one to swing, but I was determined to figure out a way to make this make sense. So I started thinking of who else can we get into this place so that we can cut the rent costs down. I reached out to my one good friend from high school and college. He actually went to school to be a neuroscientist and was planning on going into medical school. I convinced him to put that on pause and move in. So that had our total number up to 7. I reached out to one of my other fraternity brothers who was going to take a job at one of the big 5 accounting firms. I remember sitting down with him at a Panera Bread, talking out the pros and cons of why he shouldn't take that high paying salary and should come give this a shot instead. That was number 8. He agreed to move in. My entrepreneurship professor, he was the only teacher I had at Penn State that was supportive of what I was doing. And he told me that one of his other students, he was involved in some entrepreneurial startups and that we should get together. So he connected me with this gentleman. We sat down, had a few beers, talked out what I was trying to build there, and he agreed to move in as well. So that was number 9. We had 2 interns as well at this time. Those guys both agreed to move in. And then one of the guys working for me, he had a buddy from college who was running Amazon channels. He invited him over to hang out with the boys for a night to see if it would be a good fit. And thus we had our 12th member who was ready to move into the mansion. So instead of our rent prices going up, our rent actually dropped from moving out of a townhouse and into a $2 million mansion estate. The magic really kicked off a week before we were supposed to move in. I was headed down with some of my team members to my now in-laws beach house. They said that we could use it for the weekend. They were out of town, and we were able to take beach product pictures for our beach brand while we were down there at their beach house at the Jersey Shore. On the way down, brainstorming ideas to get out of this debt bomb we'd gotten into. My partner and I were previously talking about running a fire sale, and the one dude working for me, he launched the email for the fire sale. It did quite well. It got around $3,000 in revenue, which was on the high end for what we were doing at that time. Typically, we were doing maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a day revenue on this beach brand. And that fire sale got us 50% higher. So I'm thinking, okay, well, what's better than a fire sale? And it already had merchant processing issues with these brands. We got accounts shut down, and I was thinking maybe it would be better to have a fresh start. What if we just close the business down and run a closeout sale? Little did I know that was about to explode. So fast forward a few days, and the one guy working for me and then my partner's brother, they took that idea and they were running with it in the Facebook ads. I'm all about putting the right people into the right positions, and these guys were most definitely in the right position. At this time, I'm focused on getting everybody into this mansion. And these guys, they really put their head down. They grinded for an entire month on this, just banging out these Facebook ads with the closeout messaging I'd came up with the week prior. And next thing I know, I start seeing 6, 7, 8, 10, 15K revenue days. We hit a 30K day, and I was like, shit, this is crazy. We started hitting days that we didn't think were possible, and all of a sudden, this ramp out of debt, instead of taking what I thought was going to be months to climb out of, which I was used to, I'd been in big debt in the past, and it had taken me over a year to climb out of. All of a sudden, the ramp out of this looked like a few weeks. I remember the one guy working for me just looking at me saying, yo, Nick, we got this. Don't worry about it. Just focus on getting everyone situated in the mansion now. So I was able to check out mentally for a bit. These guys had it under control. And that's where it really is key, to just make sure that you always have the right people in the right positions. A lot of business owners, they get tied up trying to do everything themselves. They want it done perfectly, or they want it done their way. And if I would have done that here, I would have completely hamstringed myself, because these guys had it under control, and I was able to focus on the big mission of getting everybody together into this place to create this incubator environment where we were all going to thrive. And little did I know that going out of business was going to make that possible. Once we all got moved in, this sale on our beach brand had ended at around 100,000 of revenue in maybe 10, 15 days time, which was really big numbers for us because we were used to doing these 1 and 2K days. It didn't make a ton of money, but it covered the bills to get us all moved in and chip away at some of the debt. But I had another brand too, actually, and then my partner, he also had another brand, and thought, shit, let's close these ones down. That's where stuff really started to catch on fire. So we launched these closeout ads, and within a few days on my one wellness brand, we hit 100K day. Now, in that one single day, I'd essentially wiped the majority of our debt on that company completely clean. 5 weeks into that brand closeout sale, it had done 1.2 million of revenue at over a 30% profit margin. All the debt was pretty much wiped overnight. My team was getting paid now. I was flush with cash to invest into new projects, and it just seemed like the possibilities were endless. Now, I wanted to get the whole house involved in something, so I had one other brand with a couple other partners on it. I thought, hey, what if we put this brand up and turn it into the house project just to see what we can do as a whole house together? And that project, we were able to sell that one up to 1.5 million in revenue. I actually speak about that in my last video. Crushed it, but issue is that we were using a large 3PL, actually had capital backing, and they had all kinds of operational issues. Again, check out my first video. You'll learn more about that one. And yeah, 1.5 million in revenue. So we actually did a 260K day on that sale. When other guys in the house saw the kind of success we were having, they had other successful businesses, but they were coming up to me saying, yo, Nick, I'm willing to drop my company overnight. How do I get in on what you're doing? And the point of setting all of this up together, I wanted a nice round table environment where we could share the wealth and work together. So I said, yo, guys, I want you to run this. I want you to have immense success and scale to millions of dollars too. I just want to take a small cut of it for putting everything together. My partner, he had helped me put a lot of it together as well. He also got a cut of everything. And the entire house split up into teams and started to run closeout sales. Guys were even buying businesses on the Shopify exchange to then implement our framework, our supply chain strategies, advertising strategies, and then run them out of business because they knew they were going to be able to scale them up that high and make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a very short period of time. We were living there. We kept a pretty strict no social media policy. We didn't want guys taking what we were doing, recording it and streaming it everywhere. We thought what we were doing was crazy enough and didn't see a need to have it posted all over Facebook and Instagram. Really, some of the only recording we did of the place, aside from the videos messing around here and there, was to host an actual conference in the mansion, which I'm going to include footage of the shoot we had during our conference there. It was a phenomenal turnout. I think we had over 50 people show up for the conference, and that's how we wrapped up the year.
We're here at the Mavericks Mansion, day of the event. We're getting started. The room is filling up. We are ready to provide value for you. Let's get started. Let's go.
Can we throw back to another time? Yeah, it was real way back in 95. Need some soul from the clubs that we love. Oh, yeah. I'm not alone, cause we know something's wrong. Can we throw back to when we were good and it was 95?
Biggest takeaways from that year: one, you got to believe in yourself. If a group of young 20-year-olds can put up $20 million of revenue in a year, why can't you? You just got to believe in yourself and follow through with your vision. And then number two, on the e-commerce side of things, the supply chain really made all of this possible. We were coming in and undercutting markets because we had such great sourcing prices, such low fulfillment costs, and such great product quality and images that when we would come into the market, we could undercut it at lower prices and pretty much outbid our competition in the ad auctions. Thanks for tuning in. Before you forget, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can tune into our next stories and content coming out. And if you'd like me and my team to come in and help supercharge your brand, head on over to stackcommerce.io, fill out our contact form, and we'll be in touch soon.